Hello, everybody. It is Thursday. That means for another virtual happy hour. I'm so excited to have you here tonight. My name is Greg Avola, founder of Untappd. It's Thursday. We're very close to the weekend. I know I say it all the time, but it's important. It needs to be said. Before we get to my guest tonight, I'm going to talk about Untappd 10th anniversary. You're not sick of it. This is amazing stuff here. I want to tell you about all the things we're doing, especially with our big party on October 24th from 3 to 6 p.m. We hope that you're there. And if you are going to be there and checking in with us, you're going to earn an exclusive badge on Untappd for that live stream. And the best part about that badge is you are the one that's going to be able to design it. We have an open call for designers to come to untappd.com/10/contest to put your designs in there to see if you can make the best badge and vote on that to be shown during the live stream. So check it out, untappd.com/10, and check out all the information about the new beer we're doing, our party, and the badge contest. So thank you so much for your support. And with that, I want to bring my guest onto the stage today, Barry Holmes. Barry, you're from the Bruery and Offshoot Brewery. Thanks for being part of the show.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Very, very good. Exciting stuff. Even more exciting is the beer that we're going to be drinking tonight. But, let's get right into that because this is a whopper, from a lack of a better word here. We're drinking the same thing here. So I'll just put up your face on the screen here. Oops. And we'll fix that later. And then what are we drinking? We're doing the blueberry pancake here. Describe this beer for us.
Yeah, it is a whopper. It's 19.2% ABV. Wow. So drink responsibly. Yeah,
there you go.
Proof that it's the same one.
There we go. Well, tell us a little bit about the Black Tuesday kind of, you have the box behind you over your shoulder there, a little bit about what you're doing this year, a little bit special for the Black Tuesday celebration, because I think that you guys are approaching an anniversary similar to us in the 10th space.
Well, yeah. So this box we launched last year for our 10th anniversary. So we're 1 year ahead of you. So
there we go.
So happy anniversary in advance. And Black Tuesday is, it's been around for 11 years now. We do a release every October. It is just an iconic, bold bourbon barrel-aged stout. Goes into we feed the stout at starting at about 15% ABV all the way up to 18, 19%, and it spends a year plus in barrels. And just the beer itself is a delight, and then it's also a tremendous base for these talented brewers to apply some creativity. In this example, Blueberry Pancake was one we did for the Firestone Invitational last year, and we're pretty proud. We were fortunate enough to win their People's Choice 2 out of 5 years, and I think crazy beers like this that really leave you with a great taste. And maybe we got them drunk enough to where they had to go for it, but we'll take it.
Awesome. Well, let's pour it out. Kind of, describe what I should be tasting here, Barry. In terms, there's a lot going on here, and again, we talked about the ABV as a key point here, but obviously, taking a sip from this, I'm getting a lot of bourbon from that perspective. But walk me through what I should be tasting from this perspective here.
Well, this is a little tricked up, obviously, because it's using this really complex stout that we have, and turning it into a facsimile of a blueberry pancake. So there's blueberries in it, we have maple in it, but then you get all that barrel character. And that's what really makes the beer pretty interesting. And the finish is really smooth.
Absolutely. I was about to say the finish is extremely smooth from this perspective here. And then on top of that, you get a lot of beers that say they have, pancake or maple, or, it's more from a marketing perspective than anything else. You really taste the blueberry pancakes that are part of this, and the maple as it goes down in the back. It's very, interesting from that perspective too. So if you're out there right now, we want to hear what you're drinking. Make sure you're checking in your beer on Untappd so we can all see it, and use the comments on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube to let us know what you're drinking. And more importantly, if you want to ask Barry a question, because I know that you want to put him on the hot seat, make him uncomfortable. We're rigging a 19% beer here. We could have some crazy questions come through and crazy answers.
Well, the answers are going to be crazier, I'm sure.
So use YouTube or Twitter or Facebook to ask those questions, and we'll try to put them on the screen for Barry to answer. So ultimately, we talked about the anniversary box that you did from there. What are some other beers in the box besides the one that we talk about here with the Blueberry Pancake?
Yeah, so like I said, for 9 years, we really only launched the base beer for sale and package. Mm-hmm. And then we noticed that when we were doing Black Tuesday parties every October to commemorate the release, And the members they loved the base beer, but they were also most interested to see what were the brewers going to come up with as a pouring option that night. So there's just so many beers that this talented production team puts out every year and can do for events and all the way through to package, but we'd never really packaged any of these crazy concoctions. So in this box, it's blueberry pancake. We also have one we call Spicy Island, Samoa, which is fashioned out of a Girl Scout cookie. Literally these are small batch beers exclusively to our member base. So our Hoarder Society members and Reserve Society members are the only ones who have access to a box like this. And so we basically do this for them, and it's just a way for us to add value to that membership and for the brewing team to show off.
Talk a little bit about your membership program. Obviously, the Reserve Society is something that you talk about here. And obviously, to get access to these beers that are amazing, you got to be part of that club. So talk a little bit about how that started and how you're seeing success from that society.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Patrick started the society program, it was mostly as a way to really understand what sort of capacity he had for some of the beers that were in high demand, and to not have the experience of a line around the building. That can be good for marketing to a degree, but once that wears off, it's more annoying than anything. And so one of the things that's really helped us actually is building an online presence and really working hard to have a direct to consumer model that works, with all the backbones that you need, as you're well aware. But what's most important though is making sure that we're doing exclusive things for these members, but we're really doing a lot of variety. They get benefits in our tasting room. They get, take Reserve Society. It's a $300 annual membership. Actually kicks off today. Today's open to the public until it fills up. And basically what that gives you is access for the entire year. It's $300. It's about $450 worth in value. But then you also get access to other things we do. And then you get 15% off of anything else you buy, whether it's online or in the tasting room. And that applies to both our DC store as a pickup option or our location in Orange County.
Fantastic. There are some comments here about how people can sign up, and we'll definitely get to that as well. But it's today's the day. It's open up to the public, so it's a really cool thing.
Go to thebrewery.com, sign up.
Love it. Well, ultimately, the brewery is one part of what you guys do, but it's a great question that can lead us into, our discussion on your other breweries. This one's from Vladimir, and it says, Barry, why did you decide to spin off breweries, the Offshoot and the other ones, rather than keep it under one kind of monkeyer, I guess you can say from that perspective?
Yeah, sure. Hey, Vladimir, how are you? It's interesting. Those two brands are the brewery Teru. We actually, it's a separate facility where we do our wild and sour beers, but technically we put that under the brewery logo. It's Offshoot that's pretty interesting in that it's completely separate. And the reason that started is Patrick, long ago, and I guess often, had said he'd never make an IPA. The brewery would never make an IPA. And then at some point realized, a lot of people like IPAs. We should probably play with it a little bit. And so it was honestly the way in which to not lie to the member base. So it was tongue in cheek. It was almost an April Fool's joke to create Offshoot Beer Company. But the brewers really took the challenge to work on recipes, come up with different offerings. And the first one that we commercialized and put out in the market was called Relax. So that's a hazy IPA. But we realized that those two needed to be separate. The identity is separate, even though it's the same folks making the beer. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think that, when you have a brand like the brewery, which is known for a certain style of beverage, it's kind of hard probably to jump into something like an IPA or hazy IPA that is different. So that's, a great choice to be able to separate those out under one roof. Well, we noticed, we looked at it, we said, I think there are other styles that we've launched under the brewery. We just launched a Pilsner not long ago. So we looked at it and said, there's certain styles of beer, but that should be different, and there's beers that really don't have a style. And but Offshoot being hop forward and based around that IPA style was something that we thought should be different. And mostly it was because of everything that Patrick said. Thankfully, it's worked.
Absolutely. The Hayes train is not going away anytime soon, it appears. So let's have another question here from Chip. And Chip asks, Barry, when you aren't drinking your own beers, what are your go-to beers and what other brewers excite you?
Ooh, it's a good one. I mean, there's just so many great beers out there, and honestly, it's funny because I have such a hard time keeping up with all the beers we make. We make way too many, but it's I guess variety is the spice of life. So there's a lot I like. I'm a big fan of some on the bigger side. I think Founders and Firestone just make great stuff. There's the ones that you know are out there that probably pay the bills are one thing, but they do a lot of interesting beers that I like to go to. If I see those on the menu, I'm definitely going to order. Plus, I think a lot of the local breweries we have around in Orange County, Green Cheek and Highland Park in downtown LA, I particularly think are great.
Awesome. Very good. With a lot of questions in the chat now about how to get your beer. And I think that's a good opportunity to kind of segue into the discussion about delivery. And we obviously know that, COVID-19 has put us in a very difficult situation, but what's your take on the intent from a local delivery perspective, and how is California either helping or hurting from that perspective to gain and allow you to ship more freely? Because ultimately, one of the problems with the beer industry is being able to ship beer to multiple states. There's regulation laws, there's all these crazy things in there. How does that play out for the brewery and Offshoot and all the other brands in terms of shipping and getting beer in people's hands?
Well, you can tell that obviously the demand is there to have more of an at-home occasion. California, we've been fortunate that California's laws are pretty favorable in that respect. So we've always been able to ship throughout California. One of the things that COVID has done for us is it's forced us to get sharper and add more value to both the membership and anyone who just comes to the website and wants to get beer. So when the pandemic shut our tasting rooms down, just like every other brewery, we had some tough choices to make. And what we decided to do was take the employees that we had that were on an hourly basis and turn them into drivers. So we created our local delivery, where we started in just a small ring in Orange County, and then now we've expanded it to all of Orange County and LA County. And basically what that means now is that if you order by 2 p.m. any day of the week, we will get you your beer that afternoon.
Wow.
And it's been exceptionally attractive, and it's worked. And we think as we expand into other places, potentially that model can work. But the consumer has been kind of demands that type of value. It's the it's the Amazon effect. As it relates to the regulatory piece, I have to believe that the people will get loud enough for the regulators to relax some of these crazy archaic rules that have been in place for so long. And I think we're seeing it a little bit. We just can't see it fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the interesting parts about beer expanding is it's this notion of exclusivity and having things close to you, and I can't get that, you can get that kind of thing. And I think if anything positive has come out of COVID, and that's obviously it's a very horrible thing, but it's pressed these laws to change in a positive light for breweries. In Connecticut, we were not able to, where I am from, have breweries ship direct to consumer until this particular thing happened. So the real question is, do you think these regulations will stay that have already changed because of COVID when it leaves, or is this going back to the olden days, or as we know it?
I would like to believe that even politicians are smart enough to listen at some point, and if the demand is there, and it certainly is. It's just market dynamics at play where you should be able to get those beers if you want it. It works for wine. It works for spirits. When laws make no sense, and then you get forced into a situation like we're in with COVID-19, you have to believe that some of these things will hopefully stick.
Absolutely. Well, if you joined us late, we're talking to Barry Holmes, who is the CEO of the Bruery and Offshoot Beer Company. If you have a question for Barry, let us know in the comments on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. Just post that comment there, and we hope to have it on the screen to ask those questions away. We've talked a little bit about local delivery, a little bit about offshoots as well. We talked about just your society member. Brewery is known for its high volume, kind of high alcohol beer. I mean, I think anyone in the beer industry kind of looks at that and says, "Oh, that's a brewery beer," and it's kind of like an internal thing that you can kind of just know. Is that something that you're looking to change? You mentioned about doing a pilsner, which is obviously not going to be as high as 19%, although
that would be great. Yeah. We could sell that.
Yeah. That's what my question is, that obviously as you have a lot of these high alcohol content, obviously the consumer is not going to a bar and getting a pint of these things. These are more special releases kind of thing. Is the pilsner kind of avenue on the brewery to help facilitate more driving into the flavors you guys are offering and get that first drink with them and then moving it in? Is that the goal?
Yeah, I think that, what we were known for in the beginning was, in some respects, this narrow focus of beer, yet very creative within that narrow focus. Mm-hmm. And what I found when I got here is that the brewing team is so talented that mm-hmm. it was the brewing prowess we have built off of Patrick's creativity and his credentials. To be that creative, but also be grounded as a master cicerone, and the team that he built. It really showed me that we can expand into a lot of different styles that keep the production team energized and deliver a product that we think will be really well received. And thankfully, you guys being around for 10 years, we can measure those results. So we launched Brewkeller Pilsner, mm-hmm. I guess it was last year, and it came out of the gates at well over 4.1 on Untappd. It's since receded back a little bit, but it's still pretty highly rated. And so mm-hmm. we think that it's that reach that we have that allows us to go into different styles of beer or beers that really don't fit into a style but appeal to a certain taste. That's the place we want to play, not just be defined by the 19% beers, but we're not going to back off of those either. It is a signature. We like it. Beers that are this high in ABV tend to really show off the adjuncts really well. So when we do crazy things and try to imitate taste or complement taste, it works out pretty well.
Well, speaking of that series, is a great question that's popped up here. Obviously, you just mentioned the series is pretty amazing. Are there any more besides the Helles, Pilsner, and Margin in the pipeline? Would love to see a Schwarzbier. Any comments on that?
Interesting. Not a lot of other ones directly in the pipeline, but our head of production, Darren Mosier, has a passion for these types of beer, and he spent some time in Germany, and the team is amazing at coming out with Helles and the Marzen we actually have on our website now. So we will continue to innovate in all the different styles that we currently have. So I wouldn't be surprised if we'll go in that direction. Once we start something, then when we make so many beers, the guys can't help themselves, and then we put it out there.
Well, that's a great question in itself, is that with so many beers you guys are making, what does that process look like into going into that brew day? Like, this is what we're going to make. How do you make decisions on what path you want to go to for these new styles and new kind of initiatives?
Well, I mean, we've limited our offering in the wholesale channel quite a bit, because that's mm-hmm. a channel that we needed more throughput and we needed more predictability. But when you back yourself up to the direct channel and then in the tasting room, we're putting on anywhere from 5 to 10 different pilot beers in the tasting room in a given month. Mm-hmm. And then the members have options for all sorts of beers. So it is a very difficult logistics challenge. But we've gotten much better at this. We've really been able to build a team around complementing all that creative spirit with some rigor on sales and operations planning, et cetera. So as we go further into making 200-300 beers a year and then measuring those, we're getting a little tighter at and managing the logistics.
I can imagine it can get out of hand pretty quickly. Yeah. Well, we talked about society earlier today, and this is from Ben. It said, wife and I recently renewed our society membership, worth every penny. I'm sure that makes you happy from your side, Barry.
Yeah, absolutely, Ben and wife. I hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Very cool stuff there. I think membership is one of those things where you a lot of brews are doing it now. It's becoming more of a thing now, especially with COVID-19. Being able to limit people from getting pickups and being in the breweries. Do you foresee this being a thing that other breweries latch onto from a membership perspective and treating, their customers in different ways based on what membership they kind of fall into?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, and I've seen it pop up more and more, and you see it in other facets of life. Now that we have technology that will allow you to go straight to consumer and really take their feedback and develop things that they've told you about, and even things that they haven't told you about. When you're a member, you have a relationship that's a lot different from that of a customer.
Agreed, yeah.
Someone who buys your beer on the shelf, they don't really know you. They're just seeing your package, they drink your liquid, and they come back. Even just someone who buys it on the website and it shows up, that's closer, but it's different. Our members, they spend a lot of time coming to events, whether they be virtual or in person. So the business can really get a lot better if you have a membership option and you can appeal to that group and really use that to give them more of what they need.
Couldn't have said it better. I think that you're going to see more and more of this as we move even into COVID and outward. I think there's just opportunities there to succeed in different ways that haven't really been explored before. Ultimately, we talked about Offshoot here. It's a great question from Bud. And Bud asked, what's your take on how Offshoot has been received now that you're almost 2 years into the process? And I remember when you guys launched Offshoots and talking with your team about separating out the brands on Untappd and setting up your pages there and getting your beer here on the East Coast. I think, what's your take on how it's been received so far in this process?
It's interesting because I one of the things I do want to talk to you about, because my sense is that when you launch a beer, from an Untappd score perspective, the fans of that brewery probably give it higher ratings than the people who aren't fans. And so it probably comes out of the gates higher and then recedes. What's really funny about Relax was because Patrick had spent so much time saying he would never do it, Relax did the opposite. It came out at 3.8, something like that. It's now over 4. So the further it got away from the people who knew it was coming, the better the scores got. And then now that we're 2 years in, it's actually pretty amazing. This, we know that hazy IPAs have been a huge boom. It probably gets overshadowed by FMBs, but it's the second highest subcategory of growth per Nielsen. I think it's over 100%. And when we look at Whole Foods Nielsen data, on a per point of distribution basis, it's the #1 selling brand of hazy IPAs, and that's pretty impressive. And I can say this because I don't make the beer, the brewers make the beer, so I can brag about them and not feel bad. But they've made such a phenomenal beer in Relax and now Retreat. For that to be the leading the category, it's just not out there that much yet. We're getting decent distribution in California and some parts of the East Coast. But to be at the top of that list in front of the biggest craft brands out there shows that it's working, and now it's just a matter of us fueling it.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of people's ratings and things like that, when they come on, it depends on the size of the brewery with the beer that gets released. When it comes down to it, that we have a small brewery that releases a particular new beer, typically the first couple thousand people that rate it are friends and family close by. You have that kind of a little bit of a bias to that perspective. As the beer gets growing distribution, that's when the real kind of ratings come into play. So that's probably why sometimes you see a beer kind of come out really hot and then start to slow down a little bit depending on people that are out there. And in addition, you can't really please everyone. That's something that I've learned, and as sure you know as well, with every rating itself, someone's gonna have a comment or something that they don't like about a product itself. But typically the ones in your example that start out kind of smaller and grow, that's a sign of true kind of positivity and success, because that hasn't happened very often. Usually it's the inverse, like I mentioned, where it starts up pretty high and starts to average itself out. But to grow in popularity, that means that you're doing something right. And as someone that's had Offshoot, I can tell you, not just because I'm talking to you, it's a really good beer. So, from that perspective, you guys have hit the nail on the head and really kind of pushed the boundaries forward. In terms of where people can find the beer that you're having, how many states are you guys in distribution now in terms of where you guys are out for both the brewery and Offshoot?
Yeah, so we have distribution across 24 states. So California being our biggest, but we've got a decent foothold in Virginia and Maryland, all the way up through New England, Florida, etc. So you can find most of our beers across 24 states. You go to offshootbeercompany.com or thebrewery.com, and you can tell where on the beer finder those beers are closest to you.
Awesome. Well, we have a comment here from John Hart. Says, cheers from Massachusetts, drinking the Brewery 2013 1.0. John, I'd like to be with you right now. Obviously, social distance, but yes, we can potentially share that for sure. So cheers to you, John.
Come on out, John. We've got 25% capacity in our tasting room. Or you can sit in the patio.
There we go. Awesome. Well, I think one of the crazy things about the whole beer scene right now is the growth of the different types of styles out there. We recently kind of celebrated our 10th anniversary of doing a sour beer with Dogfish Head. When we saw the data that kind of shows that sours were the runaway style in terms of the exploration style people are going to over the last 10 years. In your mind, being part of the brewery, obviously you've seen a lot of different styles across the board. What are you seeing besides the hazy IPAs as being your number one trend setting style just within your brand from people getting attached to the products you make?
Yeah, it's hard to answer that question because I can quote those broader statistics around hazy IPAs or how stouts are performing in the broader market, but we push the style boundaries in so many ways that it's really hard to tell. I will say that that clearly pastry stouts have been big for the last several years. And I think that's why beers like this that just have an interesting taste that push things beyond what you thought beer could be. That's what we see a lot of that with our members. We'll do beer wine hybrids that you drink it and you have no idea you're drinking a beer. It just does not taste like beer. And yet you really appreciate what the inspiration was, et cetera. So, we see trends along those lines, but I think that our sour beers continue to do pretty well, but it's what keeps that alive is us doing things like spontaneous fermentation or doing a heavily fruited sour that is chunky, etc.
Absolutely. I think the exploration, like you mentioned, of going these fruited sours and trying different things obviously helps kind of, not only just expand your portfolio, but also your audience. What we found a lot with the sours is that they were an entryway to people that weren't really into beer and didn't like that taste perspective. They didn't know that a beer could taste this way. And I think that helps bring people onto your brand, get them excited about it, and be able to kind of have a conversation because that's ultimately how they get into it.
We've had people try beers. Not every beer. When you make 200 beers or more, obviously you're going to upset someone. But
of course,
people try some of our beers and go, oh, I hate it. But the fact that you made that makes me want to try this other style that I really like.
Totally agree. Let's go to one more question here. This one's from Ellen, and Ellen asks, loves the 12 Days of Christmas series, made for great vertical night with friends. Anything like that on the horizon?
So, we are actually starting this over again this Christmas. So, and I will say we also do a lot of boxes, the ones that we shared or talked about earlier, the Black Tuesday box, but we do have some innovation in the pipeline that will build on verticals like that, whether it's our anniversary or other styles of beers that we can put into, say, a 375 milliliter bottle as opposed to our 375 milliliter versus a 750, et cetera, that allows you to taste many at once.
Very good. Well, we were talking about offshoots, and before we kind of end the show tonight, I wanted to kind of show a comment that I just saw here, and so I'd love to see an offshoot fruited milkshake IPA, which is like, that's the typical question that everybody asks nowadays because, there's always this flavor of the week coming up with milkshake IPAs. I want to hear your thoughts on that brand, obviously, because, you talk about being hazy IPAs. Is there an expansion there, or is that what you're going to stick to for that brand? Is there opportunities to kind of stretch the style, or is that what you're doing with it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. We started it with the hazy IPA, and our second beer was Retreat. Now, when I say second beer, it's actually probably our 42nd or 52nd beer. We had launched a bunch direct to consumer, but the second one that we put out into the retail market was called Retreat, which is a hazy double IPA. We've since launched a West Coast IPA called Escape and a hoppy pills called Unwind. And that's going to represent our core for now. And we have a couple seasonals next year planned. So, a double dry hopped hazy IPA, a pale ale, etc. And so we're building Offshoot to have the ability to compete more as on a format that works in the retail world, but it's also things that, it's gaining a lot of traction in the direct-to-consumer world, where every once in a while we'll make some things that are a little different and not available in retail. Milkshakes, I don't know. We'll see. We've done them, and I don't hate them. They're not my favorite.
I'm with you on that.
But the innovation part is great. In order to figure out what actually works, you have to go through a lot of iterations that don't work or maybe aren't your favorite. So pushing the envelope is something we want to continue to do.
Fantastic. Well, Barry, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I enjoyed this beer immensely, but it's a slow slipper. Otherwise, I will be on the floor as opposed to in my chair. So, Barry, want to give you a chance to have the floor to give any kind of final notes where people can find you on the internet, and also where they can buy your beer or anything else you want to share with the group.
Well, thanks a lot, Greg. Really appreciate it. And like I said, first and foremost, happy anniversary to you guys.
Thank you.
You provide a great service to us, even though you piss a lot of brewers off, I'm sure. But congratulations. For everyone watching, we appreciate your attention. You can come visit us at thebrewery.com. Our Reserve Society opened today for membership, and we've got a Black Tuesday party virtual that's going to, I think that's going to be on October 27th. So a lot going on right now.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Barry. Enjoy the rest of your night and have a good weekend.
Cheers, Greg. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We really appreciate you checking us out on this Thursday evening. Hope you had a great time. I know I'm having a great time. This beer is amazing. Got to flip it so, though. You don't want to go too overboard. Want to remind you that it's our 10th anniversary, as Barry mentioned at the end of our show here. Our official date, October 22nd, is our Untappd Day, if you want to call it that. And we're having a virtual party to celebrate our 10 years on October 24th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's going to be an amazing time. Have some fun, entertaining live streams with great commentary and panelists, and also great beer as part of our Remember My First Check-In initiative that we're doing with Dogfish Head. But a part of that party is that we're actually going to be giving away a badge that you can earn during the event. And we want you to design it from the community perspective, because Untappd is nothing but without its community. So check us out at untappd.com/10/contest to enter in your design to be featured for a chance to be the badge for the particular live stream. We've never done this before. It's the first of its kind. You could be sitting on the echelon up there and get your badge approved on Untappd for everyone around the world to earn. So check us out on untappd.com/10 for all the details. Thank you so much for watching, and remind you to check out untappd.tv for all scheduling notes and what's coming up next week. Next Tuesday, we're talking to Jackie Dodd Mallory, who we're going to be actually doing a live demonstration of a cocktail and appetizer cooking. Like, I'm going to do it live. It's going to be crazy. I'm not even sure it's going to work right, but you want to tune in for that. It's good entertainment. And the following Thursday, one of my favorites, Dr. J, who is a principal equity and inclusion strategist for Crafted for All, and also part of the BA as their ambassador for diversity and inclusion. A great conversation about everything that's going on in the beer industry with respect to these topics, and we're super excited to have both of them on next week. Check us out, untappd.tv. I'll stop rambling now, and thank you guys for watching. Have a good night. Cheers.